Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today because we are going on an incredible journey. For the really focused learner, there's just no better way to grasp global economics than by tracking the hard data. So what we're about to explore is a 26-year, high-stakes race where real-world events directly translate into the rise and fall of national fortunes. And this isn't just trivial numbers on a spreadsheet, right? These trillion-dollar shifts literally dictate where your gadgets are made, the cost of your groceries, and even the future of your local job market. We're going to be tracking these massive shifts by looking at nominal gross domestic product, or GDP, measured in trillions of US dollars. Over the next few minutes, you're going to witness superpowers emerge, see financial crises shake the globe, and watch as the entire economic world order is completely rewritten.
Okay, let's dive into this. To truly understand this massive macroeconomic shift, here's our roadmap. First, we'll establish the year 2000 baseline. Next, we cover the rise of the East. Then, crisis and global reordering, followed closely by the pandemic and AI era, before finally arriving at the new world economy projected for 2026.
All right, let's kick things off with part 1, the year 2000 baseline, basically our starting line.
So picture the year 2000. The starting line looks vastly different from the world we know today. The United States is completely dominating the global economy with a GDP of around $10.3 trillion. That is nearly twice the size of second-place Japan, which is sitting at $4.9 trillion. Germany falls in third at $1.9 trillion, with the UK and France hanging right close behind. But if you look further down the board, it gets wild. China's all the way down in 7th place at just $1.2 trillion. To put that into perspective for a second, China's entire national economy back then was worth less than Amazon or Apple is worth today. Think about that. In India is producing only about $470 billion, barely even on the global radar compared to those top 3 heavyweights.
Now, what's really interesting here is the stark, almost unbelievable contrast. You have this $10.3 trillion American behemoth alongside a $1.2 trillion Chinese economy. At the turn of the millennium, very few people actually imagined that China and India were about to become 2 of the world's absolute largest economies. The gaps just seemed mathematically impossible to close. But as we're about to see, the global machinery was getting ready to kick into a totally new gear.
Which brings us to part 2, the rise of the East, the ultimate catalyst.
In just a few short years, the entire global dynamic shifts, and I mean fast. In 2001, China joins the World Trade Organization, and that opens the floodgates for unprecedented manufacturing expansion. Meanwhile, the US and Japan stumble pretty hard through the dot-com crash and a period of slow growth. Well, the East seizes this exact momentum. By 2002, factories are opening up all across China, and India's IT industry absolutely explodes, turning the country into the world's back office. By 2003 and 2004, Chinese exports hit record highs, and rising oil prices create a massive windfall for energy titans like Russia and Saudi Arabia. The momentum is just undeniable at this point. By 2004, China rockets past a massive milestone, $1.9 trillion. Foreign companies are flocking there for the lower costs, literally transforming the country into the factory floor of the world. Honestly, if you bought any kind of consumer good in the mid-2000s, there is a very good chance it came from this exact economic surge. And this explosive growth allowed China to officially leapfrog several major European economies, adding hundreds of billions of dollars to their GDP in record time.
But wait, China isn't alone in this boom. Let's shift our focus to India for a second. By 2005, India crosses the $800 billion mark. But they aren't doing it with just factories, actually. They're doing it with code. Driven by software services and global outsourcing, India is carving out its own unique, high-tech path to wealth. Global trade is reaching record levels, and technology companies are stepping up as the new engine for growth. Now, the United States definitely remains firmly in first place, but the East is rapidly closing the gap.
Moving on to part 3, crisis and global reordering. Basically, the gauntlet.
Because, growth is never just a straight line up. The true test of an economy is how it handles a crisis. In 2008, the global financial crisis sends absolute shockwaves across the globe, causing major declines. But from the ashes of that crisis, a new order emerges. As Western nations struggle to regain their footing, others press their advantage. Then, by 2014, another shock hits. A sudden oil price crash severely damages energy-reliant nations like Russia, and that forces yet another massive economic reshuffling on the world stage.
And the ultimate result of all that reshuffling is a totally historic changing of the guard.
By 2010, after a decade of relentless growth and weathering the financial crisis far better than its peers, China officially overtakes Japan. They claim the spot as the world's second largest economy. Again, that's a milestone that just 10 years prior seemed like a complete mathematical impossibility. We also really have to acknowledge the double-edged sword of energy during this era. Back in 2004, skyrocketing oil revenues created immense wealth for exporters like Russia and Saudi Arabia. It was a huge boom. But fast forward to 2014, and that sudden oil price crash acts as a devastating economic trapdoor. It is a stark reminder of just how reliant some nations are on raw commodities and how quickly those volatile markets can wipe out years of hard-earned GDP growth. Let's fast forward a bit to Part 4, the pandemic and AI era, the Great Reset. We all remember 2020, right? The COVID-19 pandemic effectively paused the world, shrinking global GDPs practically overnight. The rebound in 2021 was fierce, marking the beginning of a strong global recovery. But then it brought the sting of worldwide inflation in 2022, something we've literally all felt at the gas pump and the grocery store. But then, in 2023, the narrative violently shifts again. The explosive surge in artificial intelligence investment creates an entirely new economic frontier. Tech is once again taking the wheel. So the crucial point is, out of all this recent turbulence, the pandemic, the inflation, the AI tech surge, one nation really emerges with incredible momentum. By 2024, India officially transforms into one of the world's fastest-growing major economies. They are completely fulfilling that incredible promise we saw taking root during their IT boom over 2 decades ago. Which lands us at our final chapter, Part 5, the New World Economy, looking ahead to 2026. So, looking back over 26 years, what actually changed the map? Well, it wasn't just random luck. The map was rewritten by very specific levers of power, innovation and technology, like this current AI revolution, global trade agreements, like China joining the WTO, alongside shifting population dynamics and absolutely crucial government policies. These are the nation transformers that dictate global wealth. And remember, that wealth in turn dictates the prices, the jobs, and the opportunities right in your own neighborhood.
And here we are, the grand finale, the 2026 projections. Through the dot-com crash, the 2008 financial meltdown, a literal global pandemic, and the AI revolution, the United States impressively maintained its position as the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world economy. China, after executing arguably the fastest economic expansion in human history, firmly holds second place. Germany remains Europe's powerhouse, and India, which was producing just $470 billion back in the year 2000, has successfully fought its way into the top 4 largest economies on Earth, all while former titans like Japan have slipped down the ranks.
It is just absolutely staggering to see how dramatically the world economy has reordered itself in just a quarter of a century. We've seen exactly how innovation, trade, and resilience dictate the fortunes of nations. So looking at this dynamic new board leaves us with one really powerful question to think about. Innovation, trade, and tech reshaped the last 26 years, so who do you think will lead the next? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep analyzing the data, stay curious, and I'll see you for the next big shift in the global economy.